All right, today we're cracking open the playbook for what could be a massive shift in the crypto world, the big move to ISO 2202. We've taken all the source material and boiled it down into a strategic guide to help you get ready. You know, a really fundamental change is barreling towards global finance, and the clock is ticking. November 2025 is the big date. So it really comes down to one simple but super critical question. Is your crypto strategy actually ready for what's coming?
So first things first, what in the world is ISO 2022? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like a new universal language for money. Right now, the financial world uses a bunch of old, clunky systems that don't talk to each other very well. This is designed to fix that, to let institutions all over the globe speak the same financial language seamlessly.
And look, don't think this is some far-off, futuristic thing. We are deep in the prep phase right now. That November 2025 date, that's the hard deadline for the Swift network's migration. After that, it's all about unleashing the full power of this new interconnected system.
Okay, so to make sense of this whole thing, we've laid this out like a playbook. First, we'll talk about the opportunity itself. Then, we'll pinpoint the key crypto players. After that, we'll dive into an action plan, look at a sample portfolio, and wrap it all up with how to manage risk.
So what's the big deal here? Why should we even care? The source material really points to three potential game changers. First, imagine financial systems that can actually talk to each other without any friction. That's interoperability. Second, this could be the big green light that major institutions have been waiting for to jump into digital assets in a big way. And finally, having one single standard, well, that could bring the regulatory clarity the whole industry has been craving.
Okay, so that's the why. Now let's get to the who. If ISO 2022 is going to be the new language of finance, the billion-dollar question is, which crypto projects are already speaking it fluently?
You know, the one project that's almost always mentioned in the same breath as this shift is XRP. Our source material straight up calls it the flagship asset for ISO 22000. And that's mostly because its network, RippleNet, was literally built from the ground up to solve the exact problem this new standard is targeting: clunky, slow, expensive cross-border payments.
But listen, this is definitely not a one-horse race. The source points to a whole ecosystem of projects that are positioned to play a part. You've got XDC, which is targeting the huge world of trade finance. Stellar is focusing on remittances, and then you have others like Algorand, IOTA, and Quant, which are all building out different pieces of the essential infrastructure. The takeaway here is that this isn't about one winner. It's about building a whole new, interconnected system.
All right, so knowing the players is one thing, but that's not enough, right? What really matters is having a plan. So this next section lays out a step-by-step action plan, pulled straight from our source material to help you think about how to navigate this landscape.
And here it is, the heart of the playbook, broken down into 5 clear steps. And you can really see the logic here, right? It all starts with smart portfolio building, diversifying. Then you move into active intelligence gathering, watching the news, looking at the data. And the last 2 steps are all about execution, staying nimble, and most importantly, protecting your capital. It's a whole strategic cycle.
Let's dig into that first step, diversification, because it is just so important. The advice couldn't be clearer. Don't go all in on one asset. The strategy suggests spreading your bets across several of these ISO-aligned projects, but also keeping an anchor in established players like Bitcoin and Ethereum to add some stability to the mix.
Part of this playbook also means you got to keep your ear to the ground. You have to be an active observer. This means watching for any announcements coming out of big players like Swift or the central banks. You can almost think of their pilot programs and announcements as little clues or signals about where the market might be heading next.
So, what does this all look like when you put it together? To make this less abstract and more real, our source actually gives a hypothetical blueprint for a portfolio. So let's take a look and see how all these ideas could come together.
And wow, this chart really tells the story, doesn't it? You can see that diversification principle in action, crystal clear. In this model, even the so-called flagship asset, XRP, is only a quarter of the pie. The biggest slice, almost half, is for a whole basket of other ISO-related projects. That shows a really clear focus on spreading the risk, not concentrating it.
And here's that same idea, just with a bit more detail. Now, the key thing here isn't to get hung up on these exact percentages. The real takeaway is the approach. It's all about building balanced exposure to the entire ISO 2022 theme, instead of just making one big, concentrated bet on a single project and hoping for the best. Okay, and I have to pause here because this next point is absolutely critical. This portfolio we just looked at, it is a hypothetical example. It's only here to illustrate a strategy. It is not, and I repeat, not financial advice. The whole point of this explainer is to give you a framework, a way of thinking, so you can go out and do your own research.
This brings us to our final section. And honestly, it might be the most important one. Because, let's face it, no strategy, no matter how good it sounds, is complete without some hard and fast rules for managing risk and tuning out all that market hype.
And look, the playbook reinforces 3 rules that are absolutely timeless. First, have a plan before you even enter a trade. Know where you'll cut your losses and where you'll take your profits. Second, the golden rule of investing, only put in what you are truly prepared to lose. And third, you have to be disciplined enough to tell the difference between real, verifiable progress and just a bunch of social media hype.
So we're left with this, that November 2025 deadline is circled on the calendar. The entire financial world is getting ready for this shift. And now you have a strategic framework, from diversification all the way to risk management, to help inform your own plan. The only real question left is, what's your first move going to be?